Good morning, friends. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Yes. So, I think the screen is also being shared for you. We are moving on with the next topic for the discussion, which is on the Sale of Goods Act, and we are going to discuss some of the questions regard with the contract of sale. Now, please ensure you take down the answers. I want you to listen to it very carefully, and I want you to take up the answers as and when I'm saying. The handouts of Sale of Goods Act practical questions have already been given to you. Therefore, I request you to please keep it ready. A paper and a pencil is must. Let us discuss some of the questions with regard to Sale of Goods Act. Now, as a part of our revision, we will be learning what is the definition of the term goods, what are the essentials for a contract of sale, and then we will go on and discuss what the Sale of Goods Act is all about. Now, when you come up with the Sale of Goods Act, friends, please understand the definition of goods is something which is very, very important when it comes to your Sale of Goods Act. We always learnt that goods means every kind of movable property. Goods means every kind of movable property other than actionable claims and money. And it included stocks, shares, growing crops, grass, and things attached to or forming a part of land which are agreed to be severed before sale or under a contract of sale. Yes or no? This was what the definition which we learnt on the term goods. I hope you are able to see the screen, right? The definition of the goods is also being shared upon right away. Okay, so section 2 subsection 7, I am recollecting you on the definition of the term goods, which says goods means every kind of movable property other than actionable claims and money, and it includes stocks, shares, growing crops, grass, and things attached to or forming a part of land which are agreed to be severed before sale or under the contract of sale. Now, when I taught you the meaning of sever, I told you severed means separated. Okay, something which is agreed to be separated before sale or upon a contract of sale, I am separating something from a land. So, the example which I gave you was a timber. Therefore, will I classify the logs into a movable property? Yes, but will I classify a tree as a movable property? No, when it is picked with the ground, it is a movable property. But the moment it is being cut into a logs and it is being sold upon, I call it as an movable property. Very, very important key word to be remembered is goods means every kind of movable property. This is something which is very, very interesting and important, friends. So it is a movable property. Do not go ahead and give any examples with regard to land or any immovable property. Of course, the only immobile is which is very prominent to you and it will strike you easily is the land aspect. Please don't give any examples with regard to land because Sale of Goods Act exclusively deals with movable property. There must be a seller and a buyer. There must be a goods. Transfer or agreement to transfer the property in such goods should happen. There must be a price. And all the essential elements of a valid contract must be present. Right? So this is something which is very, very important, friends. In case of an essentials of sale, I need a seller and a buyer. So when you learned about the Contract Act, you would have learned about two competent parties. Now here in Sale of Goods Act, I am being more specific. There must be two parties, namely the seller and the buyer. There must be something called as goods. Transfer must happen. And when you go ahead, price should be fixed. Other essential elements of a valid contract should also be present. Clear? So this is where I go upon and I call with the definition of the term goods is all about it. Right? So we learned about the definition of the term goods and the essentials for a sale. Now, let me quickly recollect you that a money is not a good. However, old rare coins may be classified as goods, right? The term goods does not include immobile properties and actionable claims. Intellectual properties such as copyright, patents, and trademarks covered under the Act are definition or under the term goods covered upon. Fixed deposit receipts, goodwill, gas, water, electricity are goods. So I'm just quickly recollecting you what is being taught. This is something which is very, very important regarding the category of goods, existing goods, future goods, and contingent goods. I hope you have learned about what existing, specific, ascertained, and unascertained is all about, because we have exhaustively discussed about them. So I'm not going ahead much. Yes, of course, sale and an agreement to sale when it comes to your examination is very, very important. Please remember the distinction between the term sale and agreement to sell. That is very, very important. Please go ahead and remember, friends. Now, in case of conditions and warranties, I will go ahead and I will call you to remember the term what a condition is, what a warranty is. Then, what are the instances where a breach of a condition is treated as a breach of a warranty? There are two instances where section 13 subsection 1 goes ahead and says a breach of a condition may be treated as a breach of a warranty, and section 13 subsection 2 says in case of a non-severable contract of sale, a breach of a condition shall be treated as a breach of a warranty. So we have learnt about what the implied conditions and what are the implied warranties as well. I'm not going much into it, but I also request you to remember the term caveat emptor, which means let the buyer beware, right? So when it comes to risk follows ownership, we have learned what are the exceptions in case of a risk follows ownership as well. So where the seller and buyer expressly agree to separate risk from ownership, and either of the buyer or seller causes delay in delivery, they shall bear the risk or loss which is arising out of such fault. So these are the exceptions in case of risk follows ownership. Section 13 to section 26 is something which is a very, very important section for you to remember, friends, because you need to remember what type of a good it is and how it is being classified. Here, section 18 to section 26 is stressing upon the term when does a sale take place. Okay, we are stressing upon the term when does a sale take place. This is something which is very, very important. So when does a sale take place? Sir, in case of unascertained goods. Now, in case of unascertained goods, when the goods are ascertained. Okay, in case of unascertained goods, when the goods are ascertained. I hope you have already underlined these things in your workbook, but I'm just revising this out for you. Okay, in case of an unascertained goods, when the goods are ascertained. Okay, in case of ascertained or specific goods, okay, the property in the goods is passing out when the contract is intended to be transferred. Clear, friends? Yes. So this is number 2. Number 3, when in case of a goods which is in a deliverable state, okay, when the contract is made, right? So these are the clue words which I expect you to remember, right? In case of goods which is put into a deliverable state, okay, I think you need to go ahead and remember this. Unconditional contracts of sale of specific good in a deliverable state. I would have actually highlighted this in your notebook. Please underline this, whatever is being given out right on the screen. Okay, when there is a contract for a good which is put into a deliverable state, okay, and the seller is bound to do something for putting the goods into a deliverable state, the property does not pass until such thing is done and the buyer has the notice thereof. Notice here means knowledge. I would have told you notice here doesn't mean written knowledge or something. Notice here means even on oral, just a knowledge, that's it. Okay, so goods which is in a deliverable state where the seller has to do something to ascertain the price. In such case, when such bounds of weighs, measures, tests or something done, and the property in the goods does not pass until it is done so and the buyer has a notice thereof. For this, I would have given you an example of a vegetable shop. 4th one, goods to be put into a deliverable state. I would have given you an example of a second-hand car. I think you can recollect this. Okay, for the 5th one, I would have given an example of a vegetable shop. So you go to a vegetable shop, The goods are in a deliverable state, but can you just take it up and come back? No, you will have to pick it up, weigh, and depending upon the weighing you have taken, he will charge you. Okay, so does a buyer has a notice thereof? Yes, the moment you see, you have a notice thereof. Okay, the goods are in case of an unascertained goods. Okay, in case of unascertained goods, please understand, friends, here I also call them as a future goods. Okay, when when the goods are unconditionally appropriated, either by the seller with the assent of the buyer or by the buyer with the assent of the seller. Okay, so I go ahead and I say I want 4 cycles. Okay, when I want 4 cycles to be manufactured, sorry, I want 4 cycles to be purchased. Okay, the cycle owner is not going to just manufacture 4 cycles, he's going to manufacture 100 cycles. Out of the 100, I'm going to pick 4. So when I go ahead and I select the 4, now I am the buyer, I am assenting it, and the seller is accepting for it. So I am appropriating it, and the seller is assenting to it. Now suppose the seller says, look, here are the 4 cycles for you. Now the seller is appropriating it and the buyer is assenting it. Either in the case, the property in the goods passes. Now when it comes to goods on sale or approval basis, I would have also told you that when the approval or acceptance is made and it does not signify the approval or acceptance, but if he does not give the notice of rejection and he retains the goods, then in such case, okay, it amounts to acceptance also. With this point, you have to read section 42 of your Sale of Goods Act. Okay, sorry friends, you have to remember section 42 of your Sale of Goods Act, which is very, very important, which will speak on the rule of acceptance. Clear? Right. So reservation of disposal, sale by non-owners, we have also seen what are the exceptions. I would have given you in detail, and then we would have seen about what auction sale is. With regard to unpaid vendor, you will have to remember the meaning of the term unpaid vendor and what are the classifications, what are the rights of an unpaid vendor. Remedy against the goods, remedy against the buyer. So when you take up a remedy against the goods, okay, this remedy can be exercised only when the property in the goods, the possession in the goods is still with the seller and it has not passed on to the buyer. Remedy against the buyer is something which is a judicial remedy which you can take forth because possession in the goods has transferred to the buyer. Clear, friends? Yes. So this is with regard to remedy against the goods and remedy against the buyer. Now you have some of the rights where you speak upon with right of lien, right of stoppage of transit, and right of resale. This is remedy against the goods. And when it comes to remedy against the buyer, you would have seen the remedy against the buyer where you can claim for damages, suit for price, repudiation before the due date, interest by way of damages or special damages, all these things. Clear, friends? Yes. So I hope you have learned what the Sale of Goods Act is all about and you have had a quick revision on the Sale of Goods Act. I'm not going much into the legislations because that's already been taught to you. Let us understand what the practical questions go upon with. I'll pick up persons and each and every person whom I pick up, I require the answer from them. Right? So let me go on the order of presence. Ashravi, please go ahead and unmute yourself. Ashravi. Akash Gokula Krishnan. Akash Gokula Krishnan. Please unmute yourself. Yes, I want the answer for the first question, Akash. Can you hear me? Anirudh, நான் பேசுறது கேக்குறதா?
Yes, ma'am.
Then what is Akash Gokulakrishnan doing? I want you to go ahead and give the answer for the first question. If you are refusing to give the answer, then I don't have a choice other than to expel you from the meeting. Either I want the answer, you are not speaking anything, I want the answer from you. If you are silent enough, I am being very clear that I may expel you from the meeting. Archana CL. Archana CL.
Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, give the answer for the first question. Karan engaged an artist to paint a portrait. Canvas and other materials were supplied to him by Vimal to a painter. Is this a sale? You just need to give me an answer, yes or no, and the reason, Archana.
Yes, ma'am.
This is a contract of sale?
Yes, ma'am.
Give me a reason, Kana.
Ma'am, because the portrait is a movable property,
Okay.
and
I'm giving you an answer to this, Archana. It is a movable property, you're correct. But this is not a contract of sale because this is a contract for work and labor. Here, they are rendering service. Okay, they are rendering service. So therefore, I will not call the first one to be a contract of sale. It is just a contract for work and labor. Clear? It is not
yes, ma'am.
sale. Goods enga? Subject matter goods paru. Kanama? There are no goods. So it is just going to be a rendering of a service. So he's going to paint a portrait. That's all. Right? Okay. I'm coming up with the next person. Okay, Archana, go ahead. Write the answer. Bhavani K.
Ma'am,
Yes, Kanna. Solle.
just a minute. I have a small doubt here.
Go ahead.
If Karan is engaged as an artist to paint a portrait, if he brings his own canvas and other stuffs, materials, will it be a contract for sale?
Repeat again. Repeat again. Your voice broke.
Ma'am, actually, here it is not a contract for sale because there's just a labor employed, right?
Hmm.
If the same question, if Karan brings all the materials and stuffs, then will it be still a contract for sale?
Still, he's going to only paint. No.
Okay, fine. A painted painting sold only will be a contract for sale.
See, I have a painted picture. It is ready.
Fine.
So that may be a sale because the picture is now a good. But here, he is engaging an artist to paint a portrait. Correct, Ilya?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So then, it is like a contract for work and labor, not a sale.
Fine, ma'am.
Ma'am, so whenever if a contract involves skill and labor, it will come under contract of work
Contract
and
for
labor.
work and labor, yes. Okay, so this is not a sale. The first one is not a sale. Second question. Bhavani K, go ahead and please answer, ma. See, I'm being very clear, friends. Whatever answer you know, give the answer. Whether it is right or wrong, don't worry. Okay, everyone is here for learning. Okay, whatever answer you give it up because you are all the more now learning better and you are all the more, updating yourself and enriching yourselves. Don't get frightened or don't say that no, I'm going to, Only if you keep quiet and if you don't answer, I'm going to get irritated. Otherwise, I'm fine. And in case, okay, you have any difficulty in, expressing the answer through your mic, you always have an option to chat in the chat box down. Just when I call your name, put your answer in the chat box. I don't want you to be idle. That's all. Bhavani K, go ahead and give the answer, Kanna, for the next question. Bhavani K, can you hear me? Go ahead and give the answer. Okay, one second. Next, Deepika V. Deepika V.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Kanna. Go ahead and give the answer for the next question. Vinod agreed to exchange with Vikram 100 kgs of wheat valued at rupees 40 per kg for 200 kgs of rice.
Ma'am, it is a barter exchange, ma'am.
Fantastic, Kanama. So it is a sale illiya.
Ma'am, it is not a sale, ma'am.
Yes, it is a barter. But will you classify it as a sale or not? Barter will not come under sale because consideration is not price. Clear? When I taught you the essentials, I told you the consideration should be a price. Correct? So here,
Okay, ma'am.
this is consideration paid is not in money. It is through exchange of goods. Therefore, it is a barter system and not a sale. So in your decision, you have to write no. In your reason, you should say consideration paid is not on money. It is a barter system and not a sale. Clear?
Ma'am?
Yes, Kanna.
Can you share this PDF in like Word document form where
I
it's
know
where
I have
it's
seen your
editable?
chat, Anirudh. I'll do that. But as of
Okay.
now, you have it on screen, right? You can go ahead and take the answers right away in your notebook or in your
Yes,
paper,
ma'am.
pencil, whatever you have. Later,
Yes,
I'll
ma'am. Sure,
share,
ma'am.
Kanna.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Ma'am,
So I'm going with the
ma'am,
next
Harshit
person.
here.
Yes, ma?
Ma'am, Harshit here.
Yes, Harshit. Go ahead.
Ma'am, for the second question in the book, it is given that price need not necessarily be fixed at the time of sale, ma'am.
At the time of
So
sale,
does
price
that-
need not be fixed. But when the
Yes, ma'am. So
contract
does
of
that
sale is
comply here?
executed, price should be fixed.
Excuse me, ma'am. What, ma'am?
Price need not be fixed at the time of sale, but
Yes, ma'am.
when the sale is being executed,
Yes, ma'am.
at that time you have to pay the price.
Oh, okay, ma'am. Sorry, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm saying price itself is not there.
Okay, ma'am.
I'm speaking on the term consideration.
Okay, ma'am. Okay,
Okay.
ma'am.
Yes. The next one. Go ahead and I want the next person. Anirudh, unmute yourself and please answer.
Yes, ma'am. Sanjay agreed to exchange with Ajay 100 kgs of rice valued at 20 kg for 200 kgs of wheat valued at 12 per kg and pay the difference in cash. It's a barter exchange, but since there is for that exchange amount, it will be considered a contract of sale, ma'am.
So, since consideration is partly in money and partly in goods, consideration is present. Yes or no? Therefore, I will regard this as a sale. So, under your decision, you have to write yes, this is a sale. Consideration can be partly in money and partly in goods. Okay, if you want to refer to a case law, I will give a name of a case law: Sheldon versus Cox. Shelden versus Cox. This was a case where It was held that consideration can be partly in money, partly in goods. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So the next one is fourth question. Let me go with the next person. Harihara Prasad. Harihara Prasad.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Kanna. Go ahead and answer the next
Yeah.
question.
Deepu agrees to sell 5 kgs of silver to Hari at rupees 2,50,000.
Is this a sale?
Yes, ma'am. It's a sale, ma'am.
Why, Kanama?
Agreement to sell. Yes, ma'am. Because he's selling the silver, movable goods. No.
Silver, is it a good?
Yes, ma'am.
Done. So your answer is perfectly correct. It's a very straight question. Now, silver here is including in the term of goods. Hence, it is a contract of sale. Now, next person, go ahead and please answer. Kamala Shri B.
Ma'am, it's me.
One second. Please raise your hands, Kanama. I'll call you. But Harshit, if your doubt is done, you may raise down your hand. I think Archana is having a doubt. Go ahead, Archana.
Ma'am, they have given us agrees to sell, no, ma'am. So isn't it agreement to sell, ma'am?
Yeah, agreement to sell, but
Yes,
will
ma'am.
it be
Same
called
doubt
as a
too.
contract of sale? Yes. Kana, agreement to sell at the very transaction level, you are going to agree. But one day or the other, it is going to turn into a contract of sale. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
இதை நான் சேலா கிளாசிஃபை பண்ணுவேனா மாட்டேனா அப்படிங்கிறது தான் is my question here.
So when we write the reason, we should write only as agreement to sell, no, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can write it as an agreement. You can. It is not a mandatory. Because either way, it is going to turn into a sale. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's fine. But this is this a sale? Yes. Is silver being included in the term goods? Yes. That's all the question here is.
Okay.
Okay. Next person. Kamala Shri B. Yes, Kanama. Go ahead and answer the next question. Shashank, please wait. Shashank, I will call you. Yeah. Go ahead.
Deepu agrees to sell 1,000 shares to Ari at rupees 1 lakh. Ma'am, it's a sale, ma'am.
Why,
Because
Kanama?
there is a movement of the shares and they are receiving money also, ma'am.
Okay. So, shares are included in the definition of the term goods. Shares are movable property. Hence, it is a contract of sale? Yes. So, this is the next straight question as well. Right. Thank you, Kana. Go ahead. The next person.
Thank you, ma'am.
One second. Akash wants to join, fine. But what is that? It's stopping from him from speaking up. I've been calling his name for a long time.
Ma'am, he just texted you in WhatsApp, I guess. He said he texted you, he didn't get a reply. So he's denying to join. Ma'am, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm just seeing it. One second. Ma'am, it should be me. What is it, Harshit? The next person.
Ma'am, I should be before Kamala Shri. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'll call you. Don't worry. Sorry, I just had a switch over of the order. I remember.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so go ahead with the next question. Navaroj agrees to sell his land to Hari at rupees. A consideration is fixed. So it is 1 crore. Whether it is a contract of sale.
Me, ma'am.
Yes. இல்ல இருக்கு கணக்கு ஹர்ஷித் ஹர்ஷித்
Yes, ma'am.
give me the answer for this question.
No, ma'am. Even though consideration is involved, land is not a movable property.
Fine. So it is a removable property. It is not covering under the contract of sale. Right.
Yes, ma'am. Not a movable property.
Yeah. Good. Kausalya.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead and give the answer, Kana. Yes. Go ahead. Yes, Kana. Go ahead. What is the answer for it? Kausalya.
Ma'am, it's not sale, ma'am.
Why, Kana?
He is not the actual owner of the goods, no, ma'am.
Correct. But here you have to give the reason as there are no distinct properties. Sorry, there are no distinct person. Here, the buyer and the seller are not distinct. So he's going to buy his own goods. Can I call this a contract of sale? No. Clear?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Ganga is the owner of certain goods, but she is not aware of the fact, and Shiv pretends to be the owner of the goods and sells it to Ganga. So to Ganga itself, the goods are being sold. The buyer and the seller is going to be the same. Therefore, this cannot be called as a contract of sale. Right? Next. Let me pick up the next person. Pooja Shri.
Ma'am,
Yes, Kana. Go ahead. The next
this
question.
is not a contract of sale, ma'am.
Why, ma?
Because he is paying fees, no, ma'am. It is not a consideration.
He's paying the fee. A dentist makes a set of artificial teeth for his patient with materials wholly found by the dentist, and the buyer agrees to pay rupees 2,500 when they are properly fitted into his mouth. Why is this not a sale? Pooja, this is a sale. This is a contract of sale because consideration is there. There are two parties. The dentist is selling. Okay. So this is a contract of sale. If you want, you can refer to the case Lee versus Griffin. Griffin. So this is a case which says this particular way of fixing the artificial tooth and all these things and dentist selling it is a sale. The next one. Let me go out with the next person. Anumita. Anumita. Anumita, go ahead and give the answer. If you are not able to speak because of your mic problem, let me know in the chat. During a sale, personal skills of the seller may be involved. Kannama, personal. Sabarish, you have a question. During a sale, personal skill of a seller may be involved, ma'am. No, personal skill involved. The sale kadayadu kana. It is a contract for work and labor. The first example which I gave you, the artist, is such an example. Anumita, I want you to reply in the chat. Otherwise, within 2 minutes, I'll expel you. I don't want persons who are sitting in the class idle. Next, Sabrish, go ahead and answer the question. No, Harshit, your question is dentistry is also involving the personal skill. Yes, I agree. But here, look at the question. He is making a set of artificial teeth and the goods in fixing is a it's an art, but the material, the artificial teeth which he is making, that is something which is a contract of sale here I'm calling upon. Okay. Sabarish, unmute yourself and answer the next question. I don't have mic. Okay, just answer. Give me an answer in the chat box whether it is a yes or no. The next question. A, B and C are joint owners of some furniture with the consent of B and C, the furniture was kept under the possession of A. A buys B's share from him, whether it is a contract of sale. If I say this question will be covered under section 4. When one part owner is selling it to the other partner, okay, other part owner, will it be classified under the contract of sale? Yes. Part owner may sell to another part owner as per the express provisions under section 4. So this is a contract of sale, friends. Next one. Next person. Shashank. L. Shashank.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead and answer the next question, Kana. Supply of food by a hotel company to its resident customers where no rebate is allowed if the food is not taken by the customer.
Ma'am, it is sale, ma'am.
Why?
Because the goods are sold for consideration, but if the buyer doesn't take the goods, it does not. The seller is not responsible, ma'am.
Correct, but here supply of food here is an essential nature for the service. Sir, he is already having a hotel. Okay, inside the
Yes,
hotel,
ma'am.
he is selling as a. Have you heard of this term complimentary breakfast?
Yeah.
அதுக்கு தனியா நீ பே பண்றியா கண்ணா?
இல்ல.
But if you don't exercise the complimentary breakfast, can you ask the hotel person to deduct it in your hotel room rent?
No.
So supply of food, that complimentary breakfast part is not a sale because it is of an essential nature of service which is being provided, and it is indivisible as it is being involved with multiple contracts, which means you have already taken a room. So the hotel is providing you a room, water, they are providing you with electricity facility, all these things, TV, internet connection, all these things. Yes or no? Same
Yes,
way, they are
ma'am.
also providing you for complimentary breakfast. This is not a contract of sale. This is the exact case of complimentary breakfast. Clear?
Thank you.
Done. Next person. TJ Srivatsa.
Ma'am, can you
Ma'am.
say how to write the decision for the 10th question, ma'am?
1 second, Kana. The decision for the 10th question. See, decision is straight no. No, this is not a contract of sale. That's all. In the reason, you should say supply of food is considered as an essential service on the hotel industry. And the transaction is not a sale because it is indivisible in nature because of the multiple services.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Next. I think you are the next person to answer the question also. What's your name, Kana?
Ma'am, Srivatsan.
Yeah, go ahead and answer the next question.
Supply of wagons and coaches and the underframe supplied by the railways. Ma'am, I didn't get the question actually. And
Supply of
underframe.
wagons and coaches under the frame supplied by the railways, which means in the railway industry, okay, they are supplying wagons and coaches. Already railway has given the coach, okay, under which you would have seen this. They will decorate inside first class coach, second class coach, different pantry coach will be different, sleeper will be different, all these things. Is this a contract of sale?
No, ma'am, it is a service.
It is a contract for work and labor, so therefore it is not a contract of sale. Clear?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So this is a rendering of a service. Very good. Next person. Vijay Ramamurthy.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead and answer the next question, sir.
X agrees to sell a set containing 100 new currency notes of rupees 500 each for rupees 50,000 to buy. I think it's not a sale because it involves currency itself.
Exactly. So it does not cover under the definition of the term goods. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Next person, please. Yuvan Shankar.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Please answer the next question.
Ram agrees pledge his land value as rupees 1 lakh with Lakshman.
Is this a sale?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Ma'am, Ram is quoting his land value as 1 lakh and is selling his land to Lakshman, ma'am.
He's agreeing to pledge. Okay. Kanama, this is not a sale because this is for a pledge of a land. Land is not a movable property. It will not be covered under Sale of Goods Act. Clear?
Okay, ma'am.
It will not be covered under Sale of Goods Act. So the last one is no. Since it is an immovable property, immovable properties will not be covered under the Sale of Goods Act. Yes.
Under what act this immovable properties is
Transfer
getting
of
sold?
Property
Under
Act.
what act?
You have something called as Transfer of Property Act 1882. Under Transfer of Property Act, immovable properties will be covered.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Yes, friends, I hope you're clear with the contract of sale. Okay, we have learnt about how a transaction of sale takes place, and this is a gist on the Sale of Goods Act. Go ahead, take out your next lecture. I'm just giving you a short break, a 5-minute break. Take out your next questions which I've given you with regard to Partnership Act. We'll discuss that. Please go ahead, take it and keep it ready. Can we continue? Yes, sir. Can we continue?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Coming up with the next one, which is on Partnership Act. Friends, something which is very, very interesting with Partnership Act is, this is a very, very easy legislation for us to remember, and something which will coordinate us much with our accounts paper as well. So I hope you have learnt about what a partnership is. Now quickly read the meaning of the term partnership and the essential of partnerships, which is displayed on screen. Here I am using the term, it is a relation between persons who have agreed to share the business of share of profits of business carried on by all or any of them acting for all. Okay, so I can go ahead and say that mutual agency happens to be an essential element of partnership. Just because a person is carrying on a business, okay, Do I call it as a partnership? No, it may be a sole proprietor, it may be a company. Any association of person is distinct in nature, but they have agreed to share the profits of the business by all or any of them acting for all. Okay, so here carried on by all or any of them acting for all gives me the umbrella to call this as a mutual agency. Okay, now friends, please understand one thing. Okay, when you take up with this term essential elements of partnership, right, we have again 5 elements which you need to remember. When it comes to your contract or a contract act, you need to remember the 5 essential elements. Sale of goods act, you need to remember 5 essential elements. Now again, in terms of partnership, you need to remember these as 5 essential elements. So they are between two competent persons, agreement is express or implied, lawful business, sharing of profits, and mutual agency. So this is where I say I determine whether a partnership is into an existence or not. Okay, so we would have seen the test for partnership. A partnership firm has no separate legal entity apart from partners constituting it. Existence of a mutual agency is the conclusive evidence of partnership. Okay, so look at the cases where partnership relationship does not exist. Joint owners, persons who are sharing profits but do not have a mutual agency. So a widowed child or a child of a deceased partner who is receiving share of profits, lender of a firm, servant or an agent who receives share of profits as a part of his remuneration, a person who receives his share as a share of profits in consideration to a sale of a business or goodwill of the business, member of a HUF, all these things. Clear? Co-ownership. Yes, of course, we have also learnt about the term co-ownership, which means joint ownership. Now, joint owners are not termed as partner due to they lack the mutual agency relationship. Okay, and then we had a gist about the karta and the co-partners, which is with the good or age-old concept on the Hindu undivided family. The liability of the karta is unlimited, whereas the liability of the co-partners is limited. Okay, registration in case of a partnership firm is optional. So this is something which I request you to remember because this is very, very important. Partnership business, minimum I need 2 partners, maximum it may go up to 50 partners. The maximum limit is mentioned in the Companies Act. Therefore, please go ahead and have a text on the Companies Act which goes ahead and stresses on the maximum number of partners. If a partnership firm is not registered, it cannot file a suit against the firm or other partners to enforce any right. Right? The firm cannot file a suit against third party as well. Now, of course, we have seen what is a partnership at will, where there is no provision made for the duration or for the determination of the partnership. It is termed as a partnership at will. Okay, in partnership at will, a partner may retire by notice even if the pending contracts have not been completed. Particular partnership when they are started for a particular adventure or undertaking. Such partnership, if continued after the adventure or the undertaking is completed, will be termed as partnership at will. Okay, then we have seen about the types of partners. I'm not stressing upon much with the types of partners, friends. I presume that you are well aware of the types of partners. We have also gone ahead and exhaustively discussed about what a minor and who a minor is and what is a position of a minor in a partnership. So minor's duty to give a public notice within 6 months from the date of attaining his majority or from the date of obtaining his knowledge. Whichever is later, the minor partner has to exercise the option of becoming a partner and give a public notice. Right? So if a minor fails to give a public notice, then it is deemed to have become a partner on the expiry of the set 6 months. He becomes personally liable to all third parties and his share of profits remain the same. If he does not elect to be a partner, his rights and liabilities continue to those of a minorship until the date of giving the public notice. His share is not liable for the for any acts of the firm after the date of public notice, and he is entitled to sue the partners for his share of profits and profits in the firm which is being share of property and profits in the firm which is being made. Okay, minor. Can I go ahead and create a partnership with the minor? No. I should go ahead and create a partnership only with persons who are competent enough. So therefore, I need a major. Can minor be admitted later? Yes, he can be admitted for benefits. right? So we have seen the mandatory duties which is given out, general duties. These 4 mandatory duties you have to remember, friends. A very, very important stuff for you to remember, because this cannot be changed by a mutual agreement. Whereas general duties, you can go ahead and make alterations. These are subject to the agreement between the partners, and general rights of partners is also being discussed exclusively. We have learnt about the property, secret profits. Partners shall not make any secret profits. Section 18 is about mutual agency. Every partner is an agent of the firm. So therefore, I am your principal, you are my agent, you are my agent, I am your principal. This concept of mutual agency works in case of a partnership. And then we learnt about implied authority. What are the implied authorities? To sell, purchase, accept, and payment of goods, debts, and due to the firm. And then we also discussed about engaging and discharging of employees. Apart from which, trading firm had certain other implied duties as well, which were to borrow and accept money on negotiable instruments, to employ solicitor and attorney on behalf of the firm, to borrow money on firm's credit and pledge them. Clear? So, and yes, we have all these sections we have learned, but this is something which is of a B category of importance which I could give. Reconstitution of the firm. We have learned the position of a partner in case of an admission, retirement, death of a partner, expulsion, and insolvency. So all these instances, when a public notice is given, you have to know when a public notice is given, when a public notice is not given, all these stuff, friends. Then we came up with the dissolution. Dissolution may be of the firm or by agreement. So dissolution is by act of parties, by agreement, or by operation of law. Okay, so what are the instances of dissolution? We have seen dissolution by agreement, okay, compulsory dissolution, dissolution on the happening of certain contingencies, partnership at will, dissolution by court, and we have seen how a partnership firm will come to an end. So this is about the partnership. I've just given you a gist, but let us go and discuss about the partnership questions which I have given you the previous day. Please go ahead with the first question. 2 banking firms, each having 100 members, amalgamate their business. Can contracts entered into by the amalgamated firm be enforced? Friends, the answer to this question is no. The amalgamation is an illegal association because it consists of 200 members. So it is exceeding the statutory limit. Statutory limit is only allowing me 50. Okay, so since it is exceeding the statutory limit, this amalgamation is not possible. Okay, go ahead and answer, write down this answer for this question. So the answer, can contracts entered into by the amalgamated firm be enforced? No. Okay, since the statutory limit is increasing, the contract is an illegal association and it cannot be enforced. Right? Kannan, Manian, and Rajan were partners in the firm. Once again, can you see? Yeah. Kannan, Manian, and Rajan were partners in a firm, and Kannan died. It was agreed that widow of Kannan would receive 10% share of profits of the business as annuity. Is widow of a Kannan partner? As I said, no, because sharing of profits is not the prima facie evidence for the existence of partnership, because mutual agency. So this is something which is similar to this one, friends. Similar, this is the condition which is given out on the top. Once again, look, a widow or a child of a deceased partner who receives a share of profit will not be termed as a partner. So this question is based on it. So is widow of a Kannan a partner? No. The reason, you have to write this. Mutual agency is a widow of a child or a widow or a child of a deceased partner who receives share of profits will not be considered as a partner. Okay, next one. Raj and Kamal jointly own a house, converted that house into a hotel after investing 1 lakh each. It was agreed that Raj would manage the hotel on his own behalf and on behalf of Kamal, and the net earnings will be divided equally. Can Raj and Kamal be regarded as partners?
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because joint owner of property. Joint owner of property cannot be treated as
That is okay.
partners,
That
ma'am.
is okay, Priya. But
There is
Raj
no
and
mutual
Kamal,
agency.
Kanama, see, please
But one
understand.
partner acts on behalf of the other also, no, ma'am.
Yeah, that is either by all or any of them acting for all. Here mutual agency is into an existence. This is a partnership. They have a house. They have converted the house into a hotel and they are investing some money. It is a business. So it is not necessary that both Raj and Kamal should go ahead and engage in the business. Any one partner can also conduct his business. So here, look at the question. It was agreed that Raj would manage the hotel on his own behalf and on behalf of Kamal as well, either by all or any of them acting for all. So mutual agency is present. Net earnings are divided. Business is carried out. All the essential elements of partnership is present. Therefore, Raj and Kamal are regarded as partners.
Excuse me, ma'am, Harshit here.
Yes, Kanna, go ahead.
Ma'am, can Kamal be regarded as partner in profits only?
Yeah, but
Ma'am,
he's
am I
regarded as a
audible?
partner.
Okay.
Go ahead. Types of partners is different. My question is whether they are regarded as a partner. Yes, they are regarded as a partner.
Okay, ma'am.
A, B, C, D, and E are partners. A and B executed a promissory note in favor of C, agreeing to pay a certain sum of money due to him on taking partnership accounts. Are D and E bound by the promissory note?
Ma'am, should I answer?
Go ahead.
No, ma'am.
Why?
Because only A and B have executed, and only they are liable to see if they have to pay anything. And since it is not agreed by all partners, I don't think it should come into effect.
Okay. The answer is correct, but your reason can be more precise. The answer is no, but the reason here comes with section 18. The principle of agency is applicable only to the act done by the partners for the business of the firm. Okay, so here I will not call section 18 to be applicable, therefore no. Are D and E bound by the promissory note? No, they are not bound. Right? The next question. An unregistered firm sold goods worth, இதுதான் ப்ராப்ளம் வேர்ட்ல காட்ஸ்னு டைப் அடிச்சா அது சொல்லவும் சொல்லாது ஏன்னா அந்த ஸ்பெல்லிங் கரெக்ட் வேற. Goods worth rupees 10,000 to Manoj, who gave a check which was dishonored. Suraj, a partner, demanded money from Manoj, who paid 50%. In meanwhile, the firm was dissolved. Suraj sued Manoj for the recovery of balance. Will Suraj succeed?
Ma'am, Suraj will not succeed, ma'am.
Why?
Because it is an unregistered firm, ma'am.
Okay.
And he can go against the third party, ma'am. Unregistered firms.
It is only against third party here. Will Suraj succeed? Yes. Please go and refer section 69 subsection 3. Non-registration of a firm will not affect the right of a partner to release property of the dissolved firm. Here dissolution has come into a play. I'll show you. 1 second. Look at this. Okay, wow.
Yes, ma'am.
So, this is something which cannot be done by an unregistered firm. For these are the acts which is being allowed as well. So, this is an answer given under section 69 subsection 3. Very, very important, friends. Please remember this. Okay. The next question. A, B and C were partners when the goods were sent to a firm on approval. Goods not required were returned after the dissolution of the firm. Are all the partners liable for the goods accepted? Are they liable?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Kanna. Reason.
Ma'am, it is done for a business activity of the partnership firm. So any activity done by even an individual partner is all the other.
Please understand, the act was done when the business was into an existence. Yes, that is why you are saying the answer to be yes. Are the partners liable for the goods accepted? Yes, because the act here was done when the partners were, the business was into an existence. So here, under section 25, if you go and see, every partner will be liable jointly and severally. Okay, and the act has been done while the partners were, when they were partners in the firm, the act has been done. Therefore, they will be liable jointly and severally. Clear? Next question. A, B, C, and D are partners in a firm of solicitors. A receives money from client for the purpose of making specific investment. A never invests it but applies to his own use. The other partners are not aware of the transaction. Is the firm liable for A's act? Yes or no? Anyone? Please go ahead and give an answer. Anirudh?
Just a minute, I'm trying to understand.
Ma'am?
Yes, Kanna.
Ma'am, can I try, ma'am?
Go ahead.
Ma'am, it's actually an implied authority which is not there for A, no, ma'am. They're solicitor's business and the investment for the investment purpose, it is nowhere related to a solicitor, no, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm saying only A is liable to ma'am.
Is A liable?
Ma'am, the firm is not liable for A's act. However, A is liable to the firm if he gets any profits out of the investment he does, he has to give it back to the firm because it doesn't correspond to the firm's activity.
Understand the basic constitution of partnership. All the partners are liable jointly and severally. Now the partnership firm is into an existence. So is the firm liable for A's act? Yes, the firm is liable for A's act. Okay, this is because the liability is for the misapplication of money by a partner who has done it while he is on his scope or authority. You would have learned about implied authority and all those stuffs. Yes or no? To be just and faithful. Yes or no?
Ma'am, so he's doing this investment on behalf of the firm, is it?
No, he is doing like 1 second. Let me read the question. Okay. A, B, C, and D are partners in a firm. A receives the money from client for the purpose of making specific investment. A never invests, but is applying for his own use, which means it's like drawings. He has taken up the client's money. Is the firm liable? Yes, definitely the firm will be liable. Every partner will have to be just and faithful, but for the acts of the partners, firm will also be liable to a certain extent. Okay, so the liability is for the misapplication of money by a partner who has received it while he was within the scope of his authority. Okay, please go ahead and I want you to read section 27 of your Partnership Act, which will specify upon this.
Ma'am, but just a hunch, ma'am. He's not using it in the name of the He's using it only for his own personal use. So how will the
Correct.
firm be liable, ma'am?
Anama, Purunjiko, there is no concept of separate legal entity. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Okay, yes, ma'am.
Then, in liability, there is no concept of separate legal entity itself. How will you regard this? The next question. X, Y, and Z are partners. Z gives a notice of his retirement to other partners but does not give a public notice. X and Y admit N and continues the business in the old name. D gives a credit to a firm without having a notice of the change. Can D sue X, Y, Z, and N jointly?
Ma'am, your question is not visible, ma'am. Question screen.
Sorry, Raja. ஒரே நிமிஷம். நான் இங்க ரெண்டு ஸ்கிரீன் இருக்கு மாத்திட்டேன். Yes. Go ahead. 8th question. Yes or no? Can D sue X, Y, and Z and N jointly?
Ma'am, they can sue up to XYZ only, no, ma'am. N is an admit new partner. New partner is not liable for the acts of the old partner.
Ma'am, they can make all old partners or all new partners, ma'am. They can't make that is X, Y, Z, and N liable, ma'am. They can.
Anirudh, okay. Anirudh, done. உனக்கு முன்னாடி ஒரு குழந்தை ஆன்சர் பண்ணாலே. Who's that?
Ma'am, Deepika.
Go ahead. Fine. Done. Deepika, your answer is correct to a certain extent. But I will tell you where we have to be more precise. Anirudh, come again with your answer.
Yes, ma'am. So X, Y, and Z are the old partners, and X, Y, and N are the new partners, ma'am. So if D wants to sue, then he can sue either X, Y, and Z or X, Y, and N, but not X, Y, Z, and N.
என்னது இது?
And something, some doctrine, ma'am.
அந்த சம்திங் தான் நான் என்னன்னு கேக்குறேன். நீ உன்னோட ஆன்சர் கரெக்ட். அந்த சம்திங் தான் நான் என்னன்னு கேக்குறேன்.
Forgot the name of the doctrine.
Very good. Remember, this is based on the doctrine of election. Deepika, please note it down for this question. The answer is based on the doctrine of election. So, please understand this question. This is a very, very simple question which I've already taught you in class, but I'm recollecting it to you. Okay? X gives a notice of his retirement, but he has not given a public notice. Therefore, now X and Y are admitting N. D is a third party here. Now, the third party that does not have a knowledge about Z retiring. Third party D does not have a knowledge about Z retiring and N joining. Okay, but the third party has an option either to treat X, Y, and Z to be liable, or he can treat X, Y, and N to be liable, but D cannot make X, Y, Z, and N liable. So, this is based on the doctrine of election, which means doctrine of election is stressing upon one term. Look, one partner has retired. He has not given a public notice. One partner has retired. He has not given a public notice. Another partner has been admitted. You are a third person. You don't have a knowledge. I am giving you two options. Either you treat the firm as though the way it was when you gave the money, which means X, Y, and Z were there, and make X, Y, and Z liable, or now you are, when you go ahead and when you ask for money, you understand that X, Y, and N are there. Okay, fine. Whatever is the now structure, make X, Y, and N to be liable. But don't go ahead and make X, Y, Z, and N to be liable. I am giving you an election. Election is nothing but choosing. Either choose the old structure and claim for money, or choose the new structure and claim for money. Don't make both liable. Clear? Deepika?
Yes, ma'am.
This is based on the doctrine of election, Kanama. Go ahead. The next question, I'm putting it up. Okay. X, Y, and Z are partners sharing profits in the ratio of 3:4:1. X becomes insolvent and Y and Z continue the business without settling the accounts with his estates. X estates claim 3/8 of its profits made from the date of insolvency. Will the claim sustain?
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
No, no, ma'am.
Because the books of accounts has not been settled yet. So
I'll show you the answer. This goes with
So,
section.
ma'am, an interest can be paid or
Yes, it can go ahead. It will sustain. Will the claim sustain? Yes. You can go ahead and write the reason as section 37 will allow such claim. Okay. Yaro Keta. Someone's voice was very feeble and I was not able to hear them. Right. So the answer for this question is section 37 will entitle to claim and the claim would sustain. Yes. So the answer is yes. Next, Palki and Denning jointly purchased a building and contributed capital equally to convert the building into a hotel. They let it out on a rent rupees 1 lakh per month and shared the rental income equally. Are Palki and Denning partners?
No, ma'am.
Why?
It's because they are not carrying out a business and they are not in a partnership agreement.
There is no mutual
It is just a
agency. They are
domestic
just
agreement.
co-owners. Okay. Next, Vinod and Vikram.
Ma'am, what did you tell?
They are just co-owners and there is no existence of mutual agency.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Vinod and Vikram are supplying coal to the government. Subsequently, it was found out that Vinod is engaged with Ranjit for supplying coal to the same government. Can he retain the profits made out of second agreement? I repeat the question.
No,
Bikram
no,
and Vinod are supplying coal to the government. It was found out that Vinod is engaged with Ranjit for supplying the gold to the same government. What is this? Secret profit. Section 16, subsection B. So, can he retain the profits made out of the second engagement? No. So, if there is an agreement between the partners, if a partner is carrying out competing business, he must account for it and pay to the firm all the profits made by him in such business. Right? So this is based on the concept of secret profit. Right. Next is a quite big question, but it's a very interesting and a nice question. X, Y, and Z are partners in a firm. State whether the court may pass order for a dissolution in the following cases. Number 1, if X, an active partner, becomes insane and the suit is filed by X next friend who is not a partner. Yes or no? Avladha reason vendam. Priya?
No, ma'am.
Harshit? No. Why, Kana?
Ma'am, because he's not a partner, no, ma'am. Only a partner.
Kanama, please understand, when you are applying for the court for a dissolution, next friend can apply for if a partner is insane. Okay? Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If a partner has become unsound mind, in which the case a suit is brought as well by the next friend of a partner who has become one partner has become mad. The mad person cannot go to the court and file a suit for dissolution. Yes or no? The next friend of a partner will go ahead and file. Next friend na odane friend in kadayadu, guardian a kuda irukkalam. Okay, so in this case, the first case, yes, court may pass an order for a dissolution. Next, if X, a dormant partner, becomes insane and a suit is filed by Y, allowed or no?
Not allowed, ma'am, because he's a dormant partner.
Very good.
And
Not allowed.
to public,
Yes.
ma'am.
Yes. Your answer is correct. Not allowed because he is a dormant partner. Therefore, he is not taking part in the active business. Not allowed. If X has an attack of paralysis and a suit is filed by Y, according to the doctors, paralysis was a temporary nature and patient's condition is improving. What is it? Court will not pass an order because the paralysis is of a temporary nature and he is improving. If X omitted to enter a particular receipt of money in the books of accounts.
Ma'am?
Yes, Kanna?
Ma'am, can you explain why the dormant partner's friend cannot apply if he becomes insane?
He is not taking part in the active business.
But he is a partner.
He is a partner, but he does not take part in the active business. Only when a person is taking part in the active business and he becomes insane. ஒரு விஷயம் புரிஞ்சுக்கோ, dormant partner insane ஆனதுனால business problem ஆகாது. Active partner is taking part in the day-to-day activities. If he becomes insane, will the business run into trouble?
No, ma'am.
Anama, dormant partner becomes insane. Will the business run into trouble?
No.
Active partner becomes insane. Will the business run into trouble?
Yes.
That is why in case when an active partner becomes insane, next friend goes ahead, files a suit for dissolution. But when a dormant partner becomes insane, the business is not going to affect it. The remaining partners are going to carry the business.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Right? Question D. If X has omitted to enter a particular receipt of money in the books of accounts, can the remaining partners file for a suit of breach? No. The reason is here there is no persistent breach. That's human nature. So the court, you may not go to the court for applying for a dissolution. Okay. If X continuously omits to enter receipts of money in the books of accounts, that case, yes, because there is a persistent breach. If X transferred whole of his interest in the firm to a third party, yes, because we have learnt about transfer of interest. I am coming ahead with this. One second. I'm showing ahead this. Look, transfer of whole of his interest. So this case, the court may order for a dissolution. Next, X, Y and Z entered into a partnership for 20 years. The business resulted in loss each year. X and Y decided to dissolve the firm as the business cannot be carried out except loss. Z objects. X filed a suit. Will it be allowed? Yes, because if there is a continuous loss, 1 year loss, I will not close the business. 2 years loss, I will not close the business. But if there is a continuous loss, the business can be closed. Okay, next. X, Y and Z are partners in a firm and are not on speaking terms with each other. Yes, this may go on just an equitable grounds. The court may pass on an order for a dissolution. Clear? The next question. Geeta paid Sita and Radha a premium of rupees 20,000 on entering a partnership for 10 years and the firm was dissolved at the end of 8th year. State if Geeta is entitled for repayment of the proportionate premium if the dissolution was due to Geeta's own misconduct. Please understand, friends, if dissolution is due to the misconduct of a partner, then premium is not required to be returned. So the first case, Geeta is not entitled to claim for any return of premium. Now, The next is dissolution is due to dissolution is due to the insolvency of Sita. Then Geeta is entitled for a claim. Okay, so 8 years, the firm is in the 8th year, 2 years is remaining. Okay, so Geeta can now go ahead and take up for the 2 years. She can take back the premium for the 2 years. So how is that being calculated? 20,000 into 2 by 10, because 10 years is full, 2 years I'm dividing. So 2 years are remaining, hence it is 2 by 12. So 20,000 into 2 by 10 you put, you will get 4,000. So Geeta can take 4,000. Clear, friends?
Ma'am, Harshit
Solluga
here. Ma'am, for 13th B1, can we write section 17 as you have told us before?
13?
B, ma'am, B. Insolvency of Sita, ma'am. Can we portray section 17 there?
Why?
No, ma'am, you have told us before, no, ma'am. Like in one previous question, even though he was insolvent, he could have asked his proportionate share.
No. This is speaking about premium. So when you are speaking about premium, don't go to section 17. They are rights or duties of a partner after the change of a firm. Okay? Don't go to section 17. Go with implied authority section itself.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay? So the first question, 13A, the answer is no. Geeta cannot take up the return of premium. Second question answer, 13B, is yes, she can take the premium for 2 more years, which is remaining. So 20,000 into 2 by 10, which is 4,000. Why 2 by 10? 2 is the remaining 2 years and 10 years of total. Clear, friends? This is on the 13th question. Next, 14th question. X, Y, and Z are partners in a business, sharing profits and losses equally. Z dies and the firm is dissolved. On the date of dissolution, capital of X, Y, and Z were 20,000, 15,000, and 10,000 respectively, and the outside liabilities amounted to 65,000. The total assets of the firm realized is to 50,000. What is the amount of deficiency and how much partner share shall go ahead with such deficiency if the partnership deed is silent? Friends, this is a very, very important question based on the Gardner versus Murray rule. Now, the deficiency works out in this manner, okay? 65,000 is the liability. 50,000 is what I have realized, okay? So, 15,000 is the deficiency here. Now, when you prima facie see this question, it will be like Gardner versus Murray. But when you actually get with the answer, what is the question which is being asked? What is the amount of deficiency and how much partner will share? So, deficiency is 15,000, 15, because 65,000 minus 50,000, 50, deficiency is 15,000. Now, the deficiency must be shared amongst X, Y, and estate of Z in the profit sharing ratio, because Z has died and the firm has dissolved. So, with the estates of Z, Y, and X, they will share the 15,000 in the ratio. Clear, friends? Is anyone not able to understand? Stop me right there. Anybody has a doubt? அண்ணா யாரோ ரொம்ப வால்யூம் கம்மியா இருக்குமா? Who's that? Raise your hand.
Ma'am, can you explain again, ma'am?
Okay. See, in this question, capital is given, liability is given, assets is given. Total assets which is realized is also given. Firm is being now dissolved. So the total assets which is realized is 50,000. But my liability is 65,000. So how much is the deficiency? 65,000 minus 50,000, 15,000 happens to be my deficiency. Okay, that 15,000 will be divided amongst X, Y, and the legal representative of Z. Estate of Z here means the legal representative of Z will bear the loss and will share it amongst themselves. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Done. Next question. X, Y, and Z are partners in a business sharing profits and losses equally. Z dies and the firm is dissolved. On the date of dissolution, capital was 20,000, 15,000, 10,000 respectively. Outside liability amounted to 65,000. X has advanced an amount of 10,000. State how much amount shall be realized if the assets are realized. So what is the amount? First, the amount which is received in case of the assets are realized is 1,35,000. The next case is 1,05,000. Now case A, let me discuss case A. The outside liability is 65,000. Okay. When you learnt about the settlement of accounts, okay, I'll take you to there. Acha, that section did I give as notes?
Which one, ma'am?
Garner versus Murray. Yes, I've given it as PowerPoint. 1 second. See the screen, Kanna? What is the order of settlement? First, firm's debt to third party should be paid. Next, advances by the partner to the firm, which is not a capital. Next, what is due to the partner on account of capital. Last, the profits will be shared amongst them. Remember this? ஞாபகம் இருக்கா?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
This is on Garner versus Murray rule. Now, I am going ahead. If you want, I'll share this particular section alone with you. Let me take you through. With regard to the question, the first case is first payoff outside parties. 65,000 outsiders are being paid. Next, advance by the partner to the firm. So X has advanced rupees 10,000 to the firm. So 65,000 plus 10,000, 75,000 should be there. And 75,000 is with me. Ready, fine. And then remaining 45,000. Sorry, எப்படி ma'am 45,000 வந்தது? 1,35,000. Okay, 1,35,000 minus 75,000, you will get 60,000. Okay, now the firm has to pay 20,000 plus 15,000 plus 20,000, 45,000 as capital. மேல இருக்கு பார், X, Y, Z. 20,000 from X, 15,000 from Y, 10,000 from Z. So what is the total capital? 45,000. Therefore, first pay 65,000 to the outsiders. Number 2, pay 10,000 to the X because he has advanced to the firm. Next, pay 45,000 as capital. Now, if you pay all these things, remaining 15,000, 1,500 you will have. Why? The amount which you have realized is 1,35,000. Now, what is happening? I am paying 65,000. Okay, I am paying 65,000 plus 10,000. Okay, plus 45,000. Okay, the total is 1,20,000 minus 1,35,000. 15,000 is the excess in my hand. The excess will be distributed amongst the partners in the profit sharing ratio. Clear? Right? So, what is the money which I require to pay off the debts of the firm? 65,000 plus 10,000 plus 45,000. What is it? I require 1,20,000. Now, look at the second case. I just get 1,05,000. So, how is that I will pay off? First, 65,000 has to be paid to the outsiders. Next, 10,000 will be paid to X. Okay. Then, the remaining 30,000, 75,000 I have paid off. Now, I just have 1,05,000, out of which 75,000 is being paid. The remaining 30,000 will have to be adjusted as per the rateability. So here, when you take this up, okay, the loss is here 15,000. Please understand, friends, loss is here 15,000. Profits and losses here are shared equally. Question order first part. Question order first is profits and losses are shared equally. Now, I require 1,20,000, but I have 1,05,000. What is the loss? 15,000. Profits and losses will be shared equally. So, I am sharing loss equally amongst the partners. Therefore, X will be paid 15,000, Y will be paid 10,000, and Z will be paid 5,000. Clear? Right. So,
Yes, ma'am.
this is with regard to the Partnership Act handout which I have given out. So we have exhaustively discussed about the Partnership Act as well, right? I'm just stopping for the day. I guess your LLP Act also we are supposed to register, go ahead and revise. LLP and company, I will keep it tomorrow, friends. Tomorrow, let's not only discuss Companies Act. Companies Act is a very short legislation. We will discuss LLP and Companies Act tomorrow, which will be for a substantial time, right? All the very best. Take care. Have a nice day, friends. If you have any doubts, you can stay back. Otherwise, you can leave the class.